Dort, and I'm down to dunk. This is Lee Dort, and I'm down to Dort.
I'm Josh Giddey, and I'm down to dunk.
Hey, this is Kenny Hustle, and I'm down to dunk.
I'm Darius Baisley, and I'm down to dunk.
I'm Mike Muscala, and I'm down to dunk.
This is Poku, and I'm down to dunk.
I love cereal. Captain Crunch, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, Cracklin' Oat Bran.
Oh, I can have these. I'm going to share with my team, but I'm going to hog most of them.
Welcome to Down to Dunk. I'm your host, Andrew Schlecht. We're part of the Athletic Podcast Network. Go to theathletic.com/down to dunk and get the Athletic for $1 a month for 6 months. You get Sam Vecini's draft guide, which is apparently longer than the first Harry Potter book.
Wow.
You got a limited time to read that thing before the draft, but you've got time. I think you got like 32 hours. So get after that today. Also, be sure to join us at Fassler Hall tomorrow night from 6 to 10. We're having a NBA draft watch party. It's going to be incredible. Fassler Hall will be ready for us, fully staffed and ready to serve you delicious food and beverages. It's going to be a great night. You do not want to be at home. Do not stay at home for this draft. This is going to be one of the best drafts for the Thunder ever. And you're going to have a chance to spend it with tons of crazy Thunder fans. So be there. With me, as always, it's my good friend, Alex Speers. Alex, what's up?
What's up, Andrew?
Oh, can you believe it's draft day eve?
Yeah, I can.
What do you mean?
I'm just overwhelmed by the amount of data and scuttlebutt coming my way. My brain can't handle much more, Andrew.
So good. Man, I'm so excited. I think this draft is going to be really fun. I think there's a lot of mystery as to what's going to happen. I think the top three, you'd be pretty surprised if it didn't go Jabari, Chet, Paolo. But then from there, I think that people just have no clue what's going to happen. A lot of that is just like the Kings are in a spot where they should just take the best player available and figure it out.
Which, to their credit, I feel like they've been playing it pretty well recently. Like getting Woj to go on that mock draft special and say the Kings are comfortable taking Ivy at 4. Like, that's what you need to say. Mm-hmm. Whether it's true or not, like, that's what you have to communicate. So at least they're doing that. That's like the bare minimum you have to do.
Yeah. It's funny. We talked to all these draft prospects, like a lot of the guys that are going to be in the green room. And there's a Sacramento Kings guy on every single one. And a lot of these calls are just people from different markets asking if they've worked out for their team and then how it went.
Yeah. And
a lot of the green room guys are like, I have had no contact with Sacramento.
So that's a Morey thing, though. Because, like, Monty McNair comes from the Morey tree, and Morey never brought in guys. He, like, hated the idea of workouts.
But didn't speak to them.
Well, you got to keep them guessing, Andrew.
I've had no contact whatsoever. I get the idea of, like, not doing workouts. I understand that theory in that you don't want to let an individual workout sway you from what you saw on the court.
Yeah.
However, you don't even want to talk to these guys. You're picking at 4. You're not picking at 12. You're picking at 4.
Hey, we talk about how much we respect that organizations like the Thunder are so tight-lipped. It doesn't get much more tight-lipped than not even speaking to the prospects.
Just not even doing the work.
Like, they can't leak anything if you don't ever say anything to them.
Hey, yeah, exactly. You can't. We don't get leaks because we don't do the work. That's
speaking of not doing the work, I wanted to start today not talking about the Thunder. I wanted to talk about this article that came out, actually tangentially related to the Thunder, because there are some quotes. He actually, so this was an article by Kevin Arnovitz about the Suns' approach, the Phoenix Suns' approach to the NBA draft. And James Jones, he actually asks him about the Thunder, and he gave some quote, whatever. It's not that interesting. But the article itself is wild. It's wild to say any of this stuff publicly anyway, it's like regardless. But it's really wild to say this stuff in an article that releases a day before the NBA draft. So the entire premise of the article is about how the Phoenix Suns do not care about the draft, like at all. And I just want to read you some quotes, Andrew, see what you think. Okay. So Zach Amundsen, he's the Suns senior analyst of personnel and team evaluation. His quote in here was,
is that Lou Amundsen's son?
So Lou Amundsen is also featured in this article, so I'm guessing there's some relation there.
Oh, okay.
The quote here is, our draft board would be a mockery to other teams. By the time we were done, we only had 5 to 7 guys on our draft board.
Oh?
Why would you say that? That you only have done enough work to know in depth about 5 to 7 guys. That's really interesting. When asked about Jalen Smith, of course, who they took 10th in the draft, and then they didn't pick up his option, and now he's going to be a restricted free agent for Indiana. The quote James Jones gave was, Jalen wasn't better than JaVale on a competitive team trying to win a championship. You could say if we give him opportunities, he can be productive, but what's the trade-off? I just thought that was like a very weird, and some context to this is that the Suns are one of only 2 teams, the other being Portland, that does not have a G League team, which I think is kind of interesting. Because like, if they had a G League team, you could send Jalen Smith there to develop if you really felt this way. But the idea that you're going to spend that high draft capital on a pick at number 10, and then because he isn't immediately better than like a 12-year vet or whatever it is in JaVale McGee, you're just going to be like, well, I guess he's never going to be good enough, so we'll just not pick up the option.
It sounds like a coach GM thing to do. It doesn't sound like a GM thing to do.
Yeah. And then he talked about, there was a big thing about their international scouting and how their international scouts spend much more of their time in Phoenix than actually scouting overseas. And he had some quote like, I think it would be better for our scouts to watch Monty Williams in practice than go watch some random 18-year-old. And then he said, the quote here, Jones readily admits that if another unformed Antetokounmpo is toiling in obscurity in Southeastern Europe, the Suns wouldn't give him much of a look. He even confesses that had he been at the helm in 2015, he probably would have passed on Devin Booker. Well, why would you say that? And listen to this quote, Andrew. This is about passing on Devin Booker, which he didn't do. He wasn't involved in. There's no reason to say that.
Yeah.
It all depends on what your goal is. Devin is great, but there are 50 skeletons tied to that swing for the star. It wasn't until winning was imported, Chris, Jay Crowder, drafting a 3-year guy who could help right away like Mikal, that it translated to success. And if you don't import winning around him, there are even more skeletons. So if you want to find the guy with the highest potential to be the future star, then it makes sense to draft him if you're willing to navigate the landmines. Like, dude, I read this article and I was like,
talking about
as soon as Chris Paul is gone, like, what the hell is happening to this franchise? This sounds terrifying. It sounds like he would never take a swing ever. He's always going to take like the older college guy, like a Cam Johnson, who, by the way, in here, somebody with the Suns said they were prepared to take him at 6 in that draft, which is interesting. Obviously, it worked out. And
Ochai Agbaji at number 1 on their board, I guess.
Maybe. And we should mention, like, obviously, they went to the finals last year. Like, they were the best team in the league. So, like, there's an element to this where, it reminds me of Joe Lacob with the Light Years article back in the day. That was in 2016 during the season when they were winning 73 games. But they were coming off that 2015 ring. So, like, even though everyone roasted him for that at the time, he could still say, hey, I already got the ring to, like, prove what we're doing is working. And, like, yes, the Suns have been super successful, but they don't have that ring, and they're coming off, like, one of the most embarrassing playoff losses in NBA history, and there's all this scuttlebutt about DeAndre Ayton, who they took number 1 over Luka back in the day, and now is apparently going to not be on the team next year. I just thought it was, like, very weird article, both in terms of the timing and, like, why volunteer any of this information? What is the point of any of this? Is he trying to make us think that he's like super smart? And we're supposed to be like, wow, what a boss.
I don't know. I
So
really
cool.
just don't understand. It doesn't sound good. Light Years is different because like they are doing things a little differently, that you can see the plan that's in place because they're taking these like high upside swings with their draft picks that they've acquired by using different assets in the way that they did to acquire Jonathan Kuminga, to get Moses Moody. Like, they're doing things where you're like, oh man, like I can see how this would really work. When you admit that I'm only willing to take older guys and only willing to play older players, it's like, oh no, James. Oh no.
And the worst part of this now, I just thought of this. So that means if James Jones was the GM back then, Devin Booker would have been on the board for the Thunder.
Oh, son of, yeah. James Jones is talking like he has a team in Miami.
So that's exactly what it is. And they actually brought that up in the article because, he played for the Heat, and Pat Riley has historically like not cared about the draft and rookies, even though Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo are two like hugely important pieces to their core going forward. But like, yes. And he even says like, I want Phoenix to be Miami of the desert, which good luck. The quote on OKC, and again, like they've been wildly more successful than OKC the last couple of years. So like, I'm not even like, there's a limit to how much you can really like hate on this. Yeah. His quote was, I respect what OKC does. That's what they've chosen to be, I guess. Everything's a choice. I don't judge. I respect it. It's just not for me. Which that's what you say when you do judge. And you and you don't respect it. That's what you say.
Holy smokes, man. That is really funny. I would be horrified by all of those quotes. It just means that this run is going to end. And also we're trading DeAndre Ayton for old guys. Like I was thinking that like the Rudy Gobert for Ayton deal.
It can't work, by the way. That can't happen. That cannot happen.
Why is that?
Base year compensation in a sign and trade deal, they can only take back like $19 million. That's the whole problem with the Ayton sign and trade. You can only take back someone who's making like $19 million because of the base year compensation.
You have to sign him and then wait.
You'd have to sign him and trade him in the season, which that is what they should do. Because look at any of the deals that people are talking about. Like it's crazy. Like if they actually made any of these deals that are being bandied about, like taking back, I don't even think Jeremy Grant would work because I think he might be making more than that too. But like any of these guys, like it's just, there's not a lot out there. Like OG is the one because I think he makes less than that, and it could work in a sign and trade where I'd be like, okay, maybe that makes some sense.
I would actually do that because I think, again, you can find a center on the trade market that can do some of what DeAndre Ayton does. And if you can get a wing like OG to pair with the guys you already have, like, yeah, do it.
But yeah, that's why I just think they need to sign him to a deal, and then they can trade him on December 15th if they want to for someone more interesting. All right. Anyways, that was our brief Suns talk, just because I thought that article was wild.
That's amazing. So I am doing a beat writer mock draft currently.
As we speak?
Yeah. So you can help me out with it when we get to number two. I'll be picking number 2 right now. Okay. Mike Vorkanoff is picking for the Magic, and he just took Jabari Smith. So we'll be taking Chet Holmgren. Okay. So the draft is tomorrow. We did have some more Thunder news drop from Zach Lowe on his podcast. It's really funny. He revealed that this Denver pick is top 5 protected in 27, 28, and 29. So the reason that they haven't done the deal yet, a lot of people are like, oh, does it mean that they're going to make it a 3-team deal? Does it mean they're going to do this? No, they can't complete the deal until after the draft to trade basically the 29th pick. Those picks aren't available yet. They will be available after the draft. So it will be done some in the coming days after the draft. But getting a top 5, essentially what you're doing is you traded the 30th pick and a couple seconds in order to get a potentially much better pick in 27, 28, or 29, depending on what the Denver Nuggets look like. This is an outrageous deal. I thought lottery protected might be the best they could do. But top 5, we just take some time as I type to explain why top 5 is so ridiculous at this point.
Yeah, I mean, any listeners out there who play a lot of video games, like this is your classic crafting strategy. I'm playing a Monster Hunter right now, Andrew, where I go out and hunt some monsters, and then I harvest them, and then I build up amazing armor with it. And this is the type of move I've been waiting to see, where Presti's like collecting all these kind of low value assets when we're talking about these late first or these seconds. And the question has always been, can he like cobble these together? Can he craft them, upgrade them into a pick that has a lot more value? Because last summer we were talking about their war chest, their pick war chest. And we were saying like, yes, you have those Houston picks, but they are capped in terms of their value because they're top 4 protected. You have the Clippers picks, which are unprotected, and those are exciting. But at the same time, like they have the richest owner in sports. They're opening a new arena in 2025. Like how excited should we really be for these picks? And then all the other picks all had like significant protection on them. Since then, they've now added the 2020-25, Andrew, really far out. The 2025 Philadelphia pick, which is top 6, and then top 4. Andrew's leaving me by myself. They did that deal with Miami, where if the Miami pick in 25 ends up in the lottery, the following year, the 26 Miami pick becomes unprotected, increase that value. And now we have this 27 Denver pick, which is top 5 protected. Now, obviously, like Denver's a very good team. They have Nikola Jokic. He's going to only be 32, at the tail end of his prime, perhaps. And he kind of seems like the guy who's going to last forever. So, yes, this will most likely end up being a pick in the 20s. But turning those low value assets into something like this pick, which we're so focused on the potential value of this pick as like the Thunder using it in 2027 or whatever it is. But also just think about going forward using this pick in a trade. This pick has so much more value than a pick that would be like lottery protected or top 20 protected or whatever would have. From Denver's side, I was going back and forth with a Dean on Draft, if you're familiar with Dean on Draft. Because he was saying like this is a good deal for Denver. They're in win now mode, and the idea though with this trade is that they're going to use the space, the benefits of this trade to actually make upgrades, and that's where I don't believe this is true, because Wojnarowski, Adrian, Wojnarowski, he said that by dealing JaMychal Green, they created an $8.2 million trade exception, and they now can also use a $6.4 million taxpayer mid-level exception. If Denver made this trade with the intent of actually using those two things and bringing in guys to help this team that should be in win now mode, then I get it. I think it's a solid deal for them long term. I just have a feeling they're not going to be using these things. There's rumors now that they're trying to shop Monty Morris, who's like a very good backup point guard in this league, and instead like focusing on the pick 30 or these second round picks. I think they have pick 21 and pick 30, bringing in more rookies. Knowing the history of the Nuggets, like that would scare me, because it feels like a lot of these moves are being made more for financial reasons than actually trying to upgrade the team. You can tell yourself like, yeah, they created some room to upgrade this team. I mean, $8.2 million trade exception is kind of interesting. $6.4 million taxpayer mid-level exception is really interesting. They're only interesting if they use them. So if they use them, I would say this deal is fine, I guess, for Denver. The other thing that would make me feel better about this deal from Denver's perspective is if they had gotten Micic. If they'd gotten Micic in this deal, I almost would have said, oh, this is a fair deal. This makes sense to me. And they could have signed him. And everyone thought like there was some, I think it was in Arnovitz's, or no, Kevin Pelton's like trade grade review of this, that executives around the league were assuming that Micic was going to be a part of this deal. And so far, I don't know if the deal has been finalized, but so far he has not been included. That would be the other thing that would make me feel a little bit better from Denver's side. But for OKC, this is like obvious win. Like those second round picks. So we traded 1 in 23, 1 in 24. If we hadn't traded those, we would have had 6 second round picks in those two drafts, 3 next year, 3 in 24. People talk about this idea that like there's a roster crunch. You can't use all these picks. I'm less into that talk when we're talking about first round picks, but second round picks, like, yeah, absolutely. Like you do not want to take 6 second rounders over these next few years. Those picks to OKC were basically valueless in terms of like actually selecting a player and bringing them on the team. So to flip those with the 30th pick, which especially like in this draft, like a guaranteed contract at the end of this first round, do you really want it? Turning that into that Denver pick, huge win. Okay. Andrew is apparently never going to come back. I'm going to assume it's his Wi-Fi. He has not texted me. He has not told me anything. It's possible he just left the show permanently. He has handed the reins over to me. So I'm just going to start answering some Thunder questions, I suppose, some Twitter questions. We asked for Twitter questions. You gave us a lot. I'm going to save our bold predictions for when Andrew comes back, because I do have some bold predictions. And we are going to talk about the scuttlebutt, but I'll save that until Andrew gets back. So let me just answer some of these questions. Okay, starting with, actually, let's talk about these. At Thunder Hardwood, Knicks salary dump for 11 or the Hayward Hornets dump for 13 or 15? Will it happen? So the Knicks salary dump idea is that, assuming they want Kyrie, or maybe there's another star that they want to make room for, they have to get off some of these contracts. Specifically, Alec Burks, who's an expiring around $10 million, Nerlens Noel expiring around $10 million, and then Evan Fournier would be the tough one because that's multiple years out. If they would really do a salary dump for any of those guys for pick 11, I might be interested. Obviously, you'd be way open to it if it's just the guys who are expiring. I mean, who cares in that case? Because it's not adding future money to you. So that I would be totally cool with. But you would assume if they're giving up the 11th pick, like you're having to take back Evan Fournier. And we've talked about this idea of 23 cap flexibility. Presti brought it up at his end of year press conference. And it's something that we've been like harping on over and over again. But if you look forward, if they didn't do a long-term extension with Lou Dort, I mean, obviously we've heard the rumors about them trading Dort, whether that's true or not. They're going to have so much space next year, like regardless. So like, could you add someone like an Evan Fournier and not really worry about it because you're still going to have a lot of space? In that case, I might consider it for the 11. The only problem with that is like they already shown that they wanted to move out of the first round when they traded the 30th pick. Do they really want to take another pick in that same range unless they think that's going to be the key to help them move up to 4 or whatever, or to move up without having to trade Dort? So that would be my thoughts on the Knicks salary dump. And then the Hornets dump, like that one makes way less sense to me because Gordon Hayward makes $30 million next year and the year after. That is not worth just taking back.
It's not happening.
Pick 13 or pick 15.
It's not happening.
I don't like that one at all.
Yeah, there's no way that's happening.
Andrew, you're back. Oh, I don't know how Colin Cowherd does it. By himself that long. I was about to pass out, Andrew.
Yeah. They might do something with the Knicks. I would be very surprised if they take any money that goes past this next year. I just don't think they're going to do that.
I was just bringing up the idea though that like I forget what listener was talking about this with me, but like there is a point if you look at their cap next year, like if especially if they don't give Dort an extension, their cap is like it's going to still be like really big. So like, are they still willing to take on one of these deals? Maybe not a Gordon Hayward, but like an Evan Fournier, which is in like that $17 million range, because as you go forward, we've always talked about this idea of trading for a star. It's going to be very hard to make that deal without having some type of large-ish contract on the books. And Andrew is...
I don't think it's impossible. Am I back?
You're frozen on the screen.
My computer is not doing well.
It's your computer? Oh no, Andrew. All right. Well, until Andrew comes back, let's move on to the next question. Oh, this is kind of related. The Frozen Okie. What assets would it take for it to be worth OKC taking bad salary before the cap space disappears? If OKC is unable to attract free agents, would clearing the books in 23 actually help? would it be better to be in the tax and have salary to send back in a trade for a disgruntled star? This is kind of what we were just talking about. So, like, what assets would it be worth for OKC taking back bad salary? Well, we kind of saw it with the Denver deal. Like, that's the kind of pick I want. I want it to be in the future, and I want it to be lightly protected. Anything else, I'm like, unless like if it was a deal for the 11th pick this year or the 13th pick this year. Again, if they thought that was like the missing piece to help them get up to 7 without Dort or get up to 4, okay, maybe. But if I'm taking back like significant salary, like the Evan Fournier or Gordon Hayward, like I want a future pick. I want it to be lightly protected. Kick that can down the road a little bit more. And I kind of agree with your point. Would it be better to be in the tax and have salary to send back in a trade for a disgruntled star? I think at some point that we do have to start thinking about that. I don't know if that time is now, but you start looking at their cap going forward. If they don't bring in a contract like that, it's going to have to be someone that they sign, whether that is Dort in the future, like they sign him to extension and then he becomes the contract that you can trade, or like Bays could be someone like that. So those are all great questions. Okay, moving on to some other Twitter questions. Some of these I really want to save for Andrew, so I'm going to skip to the bottom. This doesn't mean they were bad questions. I'm just skipping to the bottom. At Ben Vance, of the tanking 4 teams, Pistons, Rockets, Magic, Thunder, which do you think will be the first to make a conference finals? Now, I'm just going to throw the Thunder out because we're Thunder fans here. Of course, we're going to say the Thunder because we're homers, rose-colored glasses, and all that. So let's just look at the other 3: Pistons, Rockets, Magic. I think most people would say the Pistons. Pistons just have a lot of good buzz around them, even though I think they've lost more games than the Thunder the last 2 years. Everyone always talks about how competitive they are. And everyone loves Cade Cunningham. They're going to get another top pick. I'm going to do something a little different, which might surprise some listeners out there. I'm going to go with the Rockets because I think the level of talent they are bringing in combination with what I think is going to happen next season, they're going to have a base of young talent that is going to rival, like, at least in terms of like draft pedigree, that is going to rival like what we thought of the Thunder back in the day. I'm not saying that those players are going to be as good as KD, Russ, and Harden, but when you have Jalen Green as a number 2 pick, you probably are going to have Paolo Banchero as the number 3 pick. I think the Rockets are going to be terrible next year and are probably going to be the worst team in the league, guaranteeing themselves another top 5 pick in next year's draft. Like, that type of base of talent, I think, is really scary. And it's something that we haven't talked about a lot because I don't want to talk about it. But the Rockets kind of scare me in that sense. I mean, a lot of people have Paulo as like the number 1 player in this draft. So it seems like they're going to get him at number 3. They already have Jalen Green, who I really like. What if they luck into Victor next year at the number 1 pick, which I think is like completely possible based on what they're planning to do. They already traded away Christian Wood. Not that he was like helping them to win a ton of games, but they're going to be playing a ton of young guys, or more young guys this year than they were last year. They're going to be bad. So their core next summer, I think, is going to look really scary. And I'm going to bet on talent over anything else. I have opinions about Tillman Fertitta. I haven't liked some of the things the Rockets have done, but that would be my choice for that question. Andrew is back. Oh, Andrew, you did it to me again. I barely made it.
I'm struggling today. There's too much going.
Okay, are you ready to move on to our next segment?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, we're gonna do our bold predictions. Now, Andrew, these are bold.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm going to give you my three predictions.
Okay,
and you tell me, how bold you think they are.
Okay,
we've done this before. So the first one for me, there's 2 ideas that have been very prevalent in this draft cycle. The first. Yeah. That everyone seems to agree that the 2023 draft is going to be really good.
Mm-hmm.
Right? People are very excited about that. The other idea is that so many teams are competing right now. I've heard this on multiple podcasts. Like, look around the league. Everyone's competing. I mean, even if you look at the bottom teams, like, I think Detroit's going to be competing next year. Like,
yeah, depending on what they do with Jeremy. Yeah.
I'm not... And the Magic, like, I think the Magic are going to be trying to win next year. There's been some rumors that, like, how long can they really do this in Orlando? Now, maybe let's leave aside OKC. Let's leave aside Houston because I think those teams could potentially still want to be bad. My first prediction is that a tanking team for next year will reveal itself on draft night. Some team will make significant moves to reveal themselves as, yes, we actually do care about this 2023 draft. This is the perfect year to do it. Why is no other team like figuring this out? It doesn't make any sense to me. If this draft is so good, why is no one pivoting yet? So I think it's going to happen on draft night. Some team, I don't know who it is, and it would have to be big moves. But I think some team is going to pivot.
Here's my bold prediction on who it is. The Spurs.
You know, that's pretty juicy. I like that. Because it'd probably take trading DeJounte.
Yeah.
Which you've heard rumblings.
There's some rumbles.
I don't know how real
There's some rumbles there. That to me would be the team. Because if you look at their team, what's the path to them to be a truly competitive team with who they've got right now?
You need like two of these guys to pop, whether it's Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, whoever they get at 9. Like, you need two of these guys.
Yeah,
to pop.
You can't continue to pick at 9 and just randomly wind up a championship team. You got to go get your guy. And to me, that would be the team. You could pull the plug pretty easily. You trade DeJounte for some young asset.
Trade Pirtle. Boom, you're there.
And then I think you're there.
Now, but if we say that, does that mean we think that Pop has retired? It just hasn't been announced yet.
It's possible that they just released it in like the local paper, you know. And
so that's first bold prediction.
Okay.
Second one is related to the Thunder.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, for this bold prediction to work, I'm assuming the first 6 picks are going to be in some order: the big 3, Ivy, Benedict Mathurin, and Keegan Murray, in some order. I don't really care what the order is.
Yeah, that seems that's
not relevant to my bold prediction.
Okay.
At pick 7, Andrew, I am predicting that Portland trades the 7th pick to Atlanta for a package centered around John Collins, and that Atlanta selects Dyson Daniels with the 7th pick. Okay. Dyson Daniels for the Hawks, one of my favorite draft fits this year.
Yeah,
put him next to Trae Young, secondary ball handler, can guard on the perimeter. I really like that.
Nice guy.
I don't know. Did you say nice guy?
Yeah, nice guy.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
He is.
I'm assuming. Yeah. Okay, great. I like nice guys. Okay, that's the reason why I'm predicting that is because Mathurin and Daniels need to be off the board for pick 8 with the New Orleans Pelicans. OKC is going to trade up from pick 12, Andrew, with the New Orleans Pelicans. And my prediction, Andrew, who they're going to trade up for, Jalen Duren.
Okay.
Now,
is this just to spite me?
Is not to spite you. This is me reading the tea leaves, Andrew. Reading the tea leaves. Here's the deal. You talked to all the prospects. There were 2 prospects that would not say whether they had worked out with OKC or not. Who are those 2 prospects?
Well, there were a few.
No.
Chet wouldn't say it.
Yeah.
Ousmane Dieng.
Wouldn't say it. This kind of hurts my argument, but keep going.
Jalen Duren wouldn't say it.
Yes. Yeah. But on the other hand, there were guys who would say that they worked out with OKC, correct?
Yeah, there were plenty of guys that would.
Isn't that interesting? Why would certain guys feel comfortable saying they worked out with OKC and other guys do this weird like, oh, I don't want to get into it, like senator speak? Don't you think that's strange?
I do think it's strange.
So that makes me feel like Jalen Duren and Chet have worked out with the Thunder. And if they have worked out with the Thunder, I mean, obviously we assume that Chet has worked out with the Thunder. I mean, we've been talking about Chet forever.
You can bank it, like take it to the bank. Yeah.
I think if we feel comfortable based on that response of linking Jalen Duren to the OKC, he is really the only guy of all of the prospects who have been linked to OKC that we haven't really heard any rumors about.
Yeah.
I mean, we've heard rumors about basically everyone else in this range, whether there's like Jeremy Sohan or whoever it is. Jalen Duren's the one where we haven't really heard anything.
Yeah.
And it would feel most like I'm trying to predict like what is going to be like the weird OKC draft night thing. And this feels like that's what it would be. And it would be a statement by the Thunder saying that we have an idea for Chet that might not line up with the way everyone has been talking about him.
Mm-hmm.
We might be looking at this more like a Cavs situation, and we want him to play the 4 or just play next to a big, a very physical big who happens to be one of the best athletes in this draft.
Yeah.
There was a guy on Twitter, Brian J. Draft, who said, I think it's really strange that there are 3 elite athletic prospects in this draft, Sharp, Ivy, and Duren, and none of them are really in consideration at the top. We've always talked about this idea that like new Thunder picks. But remember when we talked to Derek Murray and we said, do you think that's a real thing? Or is that just how it's worked out these last couple of years? Like, is that reality or perception? And he said, I kind of think it's more perception. And so like, just because they drafted Josh Giddey, who we acknowledge isn't like the most athletic guy in the world, I don't think we should think that that means that they don't value athleticism anymore. And if you believe the Jaden Ivey rumors at all, that would go along with that as well.
Yeah, I mean, every team values it. I just think the Thunder are trying to build a specific team of like super skilled players, though. If they happen to be athletic, they're not going to take it. They're not going to be like, oh, gross, he's athletic, you know?
Right.
I still have trouble getting there with Duren.
Here's the deal. Let me try to pitch it to you one more time. We talk all the time, like if OKC is actually going to win a title, they're going to have to do something different because KD's not walking in that door. Like Russ is not walking in that door. Like they got incredible luck and give them some credit for drafting those 3 guys. Those are 3 Hall of Famers. The chance that the next version of the Thunder has 2 Hall of Famers, 1 Hall of Famer is very low. If they're going to be successful, it's most likely that they're going to have to do something different, something that goes against conventional wisdom. And right now, conventional wisdom is load up on big wings. Big wings are all that matters, except for the Cavs. And I mentioned this in the Twitter spaces. The Cavs, when they were healthy, with a roster that like outside of Garland and the 2 bigs, like no one loved, no one was like going crazy for Lauri Markkanen and Isaac Okoro, and yet it worked so well when they were healthy, and it worked like in a way so well that it like kind of went beyond what you thought might be possible. Like when that team was healthy, they were destroying teams, and I just wonder as we start thinking the future, guys like Victor Wembanyama coming in, we already have like obviously a bunch of bigs were in the MVP conversation. Is a shift actually occurring in the league? And is drafting Jalen Duren and pairing him with Chet Holmgren actually getting ahead of the curve for something that we're not we're just like in the infancy of right now? So that's my big brain bold prediction.
Yeah, I'm not there. I think you need to be more versatile than that. I just don't know. I don't know that long term you can play those 2 at the same time because I think long term they're both centers, and I just. But the whole pitch with those guys is how good they are on the perimeter on defense, like how they can hold up. I just don't buy it.
You don't buy it.
No.
That's fine. Well,
I don't buy that, and maybe I'm proven wrong. Maybe they do take Duren. I just would still be a little skeptical if that was their choice.
So you'll at least give me credit for that being bold, though.
Sure.
Give me a little bold.
Sure, I'll give you a little nugget of boldness.
Okay. Yeah. Final bold prediction, Andrew.
Yep.
AJ Griffin falls out of the lottery.
Oh.
Final. Again, these are bold. Like I'm trying to pick things that have probably less than 20% chance of happening, but could happen. And that's my final bold prediction.
Yeah, I think that's less bold. I mean, he could fall to 15, right?
Who's picking at 15? Oh, the Hornets. Who are trying to get rid of that pick. But that would be a good trade up scenario. Like he's the type of guy where if he starts falling, a team's probably going to trade up and try to get him. Do you have any bold predictions, Andrew, off the top of your head?
Yeah, I'll say the Thunder make a deal with the Pelicans and they get Shaden Sharp.
Shaden Sharp. So do you think he's the pick? This is interesting. Mock draft special, Jonathan Gavoni and Woj. All of a sudden are mocking Shaden Sharp to the Blazers at 7.
Yeah.
That makes no sense to me from the Blazers' perspective. All we've heard this entire time is that the Blazers are wanting to retool around Dane. You don't retool around Dane with like the 18-year-old mystery man.
Yeah.
So either that's not true, and they are open to it, because we know that Mike Schmitz, when he worked at ESPN and they were doing mock drafts, he said that he would take Sharp at 7 if he was there for the Blazers. He is now with the Blazers.
Mhm.
Or is this the Blazers sensing that OKC wants Sharp, and they are trying to send the signal that if you want Sharp, you can't wait till 8. You've got to trade up to 7.
Or is this ESPN saying we're going to give him a clean slate and act like we don't know what's going to happen at 7, and just act like we're oblivious to what's going to happen with the Blazers at 7?
Wait, you're saying that Mike Schmitz is giving them secret intel, Andrew?
I'm saying that Mike Schmitz is cleansing ESPN of information from the Blazers, and they're just like, I think that he's the 7th best proxy. I mean, you listened to Jay Billis talk about him last night. Did you watch it?
Dude, Jay Billis. He said, he's talking about Jaden Ivey. He was talking about his improved shooting. He said that he shot 40% from 3 last year. And I was like, wait, is that true? Wait, if Jaden Ivey was shooting 40% from 3, everyone would be talking about him as like the number 1 or number 2 pick.
Yeah. He said the phrase, I saw Shaden Sharp at Duke. He said that, or at Kentucky, I mean. He said, I saw him at Kentucky. And it was like, doing what? He's like, I watched him in the warm-ups. And it was just like, son of a, like, what are you doing, bro? Like, stop it. Stop it. He also said that what did he say? His comps last night were just all over the board. It was really
comparing Chet to Giannis, which, I mean, I guess if you squint, you could say, okay, these guys are coming in with like weird bodies, I suppose. Like that's
sure.
But Giannis was a lot shorter at the time, and so his body wasn't like that weird. He was just like a skinny guy.
He's real skinny. He said that Keegan Murray is a tall Malcolm Brogdon. Which I don't even know what to say to that comp.
I might actually be into that one, Bills. Let me think about that one. Yeah, and then he said Jabari Smith was KD like.
Yeah, that
I hate when people say, when they're doing comps and they're like, listen, you never want to compare a guy to someone like KD, but it's like, well, then don't do it.
Yeah, don't do it.
Don't do it.
Have the handle. He doesn't have the pull-up game. You know, he doesn't have the defense, you know, like Kevin was. And maybe he'll be as good of a defender, but like he's not Kevin at all. Like Kevin could get things going to the rack, you know, at Texas. He was nothing like him except for tall and skinny.
It was weird. I kind of wish, like, I would rather have Lowe on that show, like Lowe and Woj and the host.
Yeah. The host was pretty good.
Yeah, I like the host. Yeah. I forget. I don't know that guy's name. That was my first.
I don't know his name either. I was trying to figure it out, but
I never watch ESPN, so I don't know. Okay, you want to go over some scuttlebutt real quick?
I think we have to.
Okay, so before I get into scuttlebutt, I want to give a shout out to @ThunderFocus on Twitter account. Hey, two more days. Go follow ThunderFocus. ThunderFocus has been basically summarizing all the scuttlebutt, and this year I find it's uniquely hard to catch everything because you have articles, you have podcasts, you have these Twitter Spaces, you have the call-in app, you have to like do a Spotify Green Room. Like there's all these sources of where this information is coming from, and it's so hard to keep track of it all.
Yeah.
And so I really appreciate what ThunderFocus has been doing, just kind of threading it all, letting you know what people are talking about. It's very nice. Okay. So the big thing yesterday, let's start at the top, Andrew. Chet Holmgren, Jonathan Givony last night on SportsCenter. I've talked to owners, coaches, officials, executives, and everyone is saying the order will be Jabari, Chet, and Paulo. Would be shocking if it went otherwise. Woj said, my sense has been that Chet has been the focus for Oklahoma City all along. Brian Windhorst said, everyone I've talked to believes Jabari Smith goes number 1. Tim McMahon said, it would be a surprise if it doesn't go Jabari, Chet, Paulo. Jake Fisher, Orlando, and OKC have access to the medical information for Chet. Honestly, Andrew, my takeaway from this, terrified. It's too absolute.
Mm-hmm.
In a draft where no one agrees on the top 3, the order of the top 3.
This happens every year, though, Al. Like people figure out what these teams want. I
know, but it's different. Like last year with Cade, like most people at that time felt like Cade was far and away the best prospect. Whether that was true or not, that's how most people were framing that draft.
Mm-hmm.
This draft is much different, has much different framing. And in addition to that, we talk about OKC being this tight-lipped organization. Like Orlando is that way too. So I
don't know.
I would just say that all of this, where everyone is already assuming how the top three go, it scares me, Andrew.
Don't be scared. I think you can feel pretty confident going into draft night.
Let me ask you some Twitter questions about Chet. First from Stone Cold.
Hey, before we do that, let's take a quick break.
Okay, can we go long today? Yeah,
we can go long today. But we got to take a quick break to hear from our sponsor. Hoo boy, the weather is getting nice, and it's time to look nice, and that's why I rely on Indochino, because they make clothes that are made just to fit you. I ordered some pants from them. I wear them all the time, and they just fit like they were made for me. And that's because they were. From weddings to work functions to weekends out on the town, it's always the right time to dress to impress, especially in clothes that fit you perfectly. Indochino makes high-quality, custom-fitted suits, shirts, and casual wear, all at a surprisingly affordable price. You can customize everything from suits and shirts to chinos and bomber jackets at prices more affordable than you might expect. I was telling you about those pants. I really love to wear them. They're a good complementary piece to a suit jacket. They're just good with just a regular button-up shirt, or even I've worn them with just a t-shirt just because I love wearing them so much. They complement so many different styles, and they fit me so well, and I want to wear them all the time. This season, dress to impress on every occasion with Indochino. Get $50 off a purchase of $399 or more by using the promo code DUNK at Indochino.com. That's $50 off a purchase of $399 or more at INDOCHINO.com. Promo code DUNK. And we're back after that quick break. Al, let's get to some chat questions.
Okay, check questions at Stone Cold S. Adams. Will it be weird seeing Holmgren on the back of an OKC shirt? Feels like he is Chet, and the last name is not as well known. You know what? I think I agree. Obviously, like in soccer, guys can put like their first name on the shirt. I would love to just have a jersey that just said Chet on the back. And honestly, I think about it more. I want Shea on the back.
Yeah, I mean, you don't have LeBron on the back of a jersey.
That would be cool too. I'm just saying, maybe they should expand it and let guys choose first or last name, because I think Chet is a great example.
Remember during the pandemic, they could put whatever they wanted on the back of a jersey.
They could. Next, at the first Hurley, this is another one about Chet. This draft has a chance to be like the 2007 draft when the Sonics had number 2 and did a draft night deal to move up to number 5. Is this Presti's chance to fully remake the team with 2 top 5 talents? And if so, Andrew, who is your ultimate realistic combo?
I think it's Chet and Jaden Ivey are the two that, if you're able to get that 4th pick somehow from the Kings, I think that's what you do.
I thought it was very interesting, that report yesterday that said the Kings had asked the Pacers for number 6 and 2 future first rounders, and that the Pacers turned them down.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone on Twitter was like, wow, they're asking for so much. My reaction to that was, that seems like a pretty easy deal for OKC to match.
It's pretty easy for them to match.
If they can get up to 7 or get up to 8 and then send that pick along with 2 future first, obviously collectively you have to give something up to get to 7 or 8, but I don't know. It doesn't sound like that wild.
Yeah, you could do that. I also would like Ben Mathurin, or if you could get Shaden Sharp, I think that the fit is probably cleaner with like a Ben Mathurin or Shaden Sharp or even Keegan Murray.
Yeah,
honestly, than trying to fit Jaden Ivey. But I think if you're just like swinging for the fences, then you just take Ivey and try to figure it out. He would probably have to come off the bench, where you're doing like the James Harden redux thing.
Oh boy,
which I don't love, and that's why I might prefer taking, Mathurin or Sharp, or if I don't know that you need to trade up that high to get Sohan. He's another guy that I really like. Which is, I don't know, like if you can do it, like just go get Ivy. He's the guy that everybody seems to think could be one of the best players in the draft. And then, you figure it out. If you have to trade one of Shea, Giddey, or Jaden Ivey at some point, like you do that, you probably get a lot more than you could get otherwise. So yeah, I mean that's probably what I would do. Just get as much talent as possible on the team, and then have more.
Are your fit concerns with Ivy kind of diminished if it turns out he actually did shoot 40% from 3 last year, as Jay Billis said?
So if we are talking a fictional world, then yes.
Okay. Well, that's good to know. Some other scuttlebutt that came out about Paulo. Now, this is the scuttlebutt at the top is so ridiculous because we've now come full circle. Every single prospect at the top has now been connected to the Thunder in some way. The final piece was Paulo. And yesterday, Jake Fisher said there's a real possibility Paulo goes number 2 to OKC. Rafael Barlow, who we had on the show last week, he did an intel piece, said several sources say that the action could start at number 2 with the possibility of the Thunder selecting Banchero. I think it's notable just because we haven't heard anything with Paulo up until this point.
Yeah.
And so I was kind of waiting for it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily see this as a sign that the Thunder are taking Paulo. I was just it was just like the last rumor you could have about the Thunder. So like we had to get it at some point.
Yeah, they're not doing it.
Andrew doesn't believe it. He sounds so confident. Is he going to look like a fool tomorrow night?
If I look foolish, I will fully admit how foolish I am tomorrow, but I am not buying it whatsoever.
So when they draft Paulo and Jalen Duren,
Paulo and Mark Williams, I actually like Jalen Duren just in a vacuum. Like I really do like the idea of him, 19 years old, crazy athlete, super duper strong. Like almost like how is this possible strong? His catch radius is ridiculous. I mean, he would be really fun with Josh Giddey just because Josh could throw anything, he could just throw anything and he would catch it. And Josh was going to throw great passes. So I like the idea of Duren. And I have my reasons for not thinking Paulo is going to be the guy. And people are like, oh, well, Andrew didn't believe Josh Giddey was there at 6 either, Kurt T. Listen, Kurt T. Josh Giddey was thought to be a guy that would go in like the 10 range. And they took him early. But if you look at all the things, like he checked a lot of boxes. There are boxes that Paulo doesn't check that he checked. I'll just say that.
And I would say in our defense, we didn't buy into the book night stuff last year. We always thought there was something up with that.
We didn't like it. I just didn't think it made sense. We heard a ton about it, but it was just like it just didn't pass the smell test. Ultimately, I think that maybe begrudgingly we thought that okay, he's probably the guy if everybody's saying it, but the truth is really new.
Let's talk about Jaden Ivey because obviously, going back to the draft combine, we've been talking about this. At Mike_Duty wants to know, in a scenario where Chet goes first, is it out of the question for OKC to trade back for Ivy? Is Jabari the better prospect overall, or is he a really good prospect but a better fit in OKC because he fills a need compared to Ivy? So basically, if Chet goes number 1, do you think that trade down possibility is in play? Or would you still be surprised?
I would still be surprised. I still just have a hard time. If that's like the only guy that you walk away from this draft with, I still just have a hard time understanding why. I just think Jabari Smith, I mean, the Thunder did their due diligence on Jabari Smith, brought him here.
Yeah.
It did all the things that you would need to do, kept him here for a few days, did the workout, went to dinner with everybody, met everybody. That didn't happen with Jaden Ivey. It doesn't mean that they're not going to take him, but that didn't happen. And to me, if you're going to take a guy second overall, you want that experience with them.
And I would say a lot of people are bringing up, well, they worked out Giddey in secret. Like they didn't bring him to OKC, which completely true. But I feel like those are two different situations because last year, no one knew about Giddey. Like there was a reason to have these secret workouts. Whereas if we believe these rumors, the entire league has known that OKC likes Jaden Ivey since the draft combine. If that were the case, why would you not bring that person in for this multi-day thing like they did with Jabari?
And you're picking at 2. At 6, we don't know who's going to go at 6. There's some gamesmanship there. Like at 2, it's going to be a few guys. And if it's not one of those few guys, you're trading back because it's pretty solidified as to who those guys are. I think that it's not impossible that they trade back to 4. And to me, what it would signal, and if they can get a 23 pick from the Kings, it would signal to me that they value the 23 draft more than they do this draft. And that they like Jaden Ivey enough, but think that getting a 23 pick and Ivy is worth way more than just taking Jabari Smith at 2, which could be fair. I mean, you can make the argument that you should put all your eggs in that basket. And I think that it's also a signal that like, hey, we're going to be bad next year because we're going to have a team that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, maybe the Thunder are the team that announces their intentions.
They could be. That to me, and that's a fine outcome if that's what it is. I don't understand how you're putting a team together. Also, the only thing that Shea has ever really not liked about his experience with the Thunder has been that they've made him not like the number one primary guy, and that they have to share those duties with Giddey. And now you're saying, well, like, all right, move over just a little bit more, Shea. We're going to bring in another guard. To me, it doesn't make any logical sense. And sometimes you do things that don't make logical sense. You do it because it's talent-based alone, and you just try to figure it out. But to me, it's just like, man, there wasn't enough room on this team years ago for Russ, KD, and Harden to all be the superstars. There was only room for 2. Now, Josh is different. Josh could maybe make room for those 2 to thrive, and he's kind of this tertiary role. But I just have a hard time envisioning what it looks like with those 3. And that could be my problem. I don't know.
Next question from @MJ_Horner. Is there belief that Ivy can guard 1 to 3 at an above average NBA level? Is there any belief he could be the primary defender on the best guard or wing?
No.
I don't think I've heard anyone say that. I think MJ's asking that question knowing the answer, but they just wanted to bring it up just so we're all aware, because
he wasn't good at Purdue.
Everyone talks about how Shea and Giddey aren't great defenders, even though we feel like Shea could be.
Yeah.
And he's gotten better in some respects, but I think that's worth considering as well. Like, you're putting those 3 guys together, and Trey Mann, throw him in as well. Mm-hmm. Okay, next question @NZ Thunder Guy. Not sure if it's been asked before, but Giddey for number 4 straight up. Who says no?
Probably Sacramento.
I think so too. When you have those 2 guards already, I mean, obviously he has more size than them, which is nice.
Mm-hmm.
And they've drafted 3 guards in a row, but I think the number 4 draft it's kind of like the new car thing, where it's like that number 4 pick before it's attached to any player just has like so much value. Even though I think that would be a roughly equivalent trade. Like, I think it's probably fair value right now.
Yeah, probably so.
I just don't think they would do that.
And I'm not sure the Thunder would either.
Yeah, they might not.
Because in Giddey, you have this 6'8", 6'9", whatever position he is, elite passer, elite thinker. You know what you've got. And I think that if you end up drafting a big, you want somebody to help connect the offense. And Giddey is the guy. I think that you can be more confident in the Giddey pick knowing that you got the second pick, and not oh gosh, we got to trade Giddey to get somebody else in here. It's more like, oh wow, like this really worked out well. Because if the Thunder landed at 4 this year, shoot, I mean, what do you do? I mean, maybe then you trade down for Duren and then hope that works out or whatever, because I just don't think the Jaden Ivey thing it makes logical sense. But now that you have one of those guys, you guys are really good choices there. No matter who you take, one of the 3 bigs, like, you have some really good choices that fit really well with Josh Giddey, especially if it's Chet or Jabari who can shoot it from deep. So to me, it makes more sense to keep him and to see what that looks like than to try to flip him now to Sacramento. Who is Josh Giddey getting you to the play-in Sacramento? Do you feel confident about that? Like, I don't either. So I just have a hard time getting there with
And he's not fixing either of their two biggest weaknesses, which is shooting and defense.
he's actually not good at either one of them.
Yeah. Last question about Jaden Ivey. I like this question. At Diesel Ray 23. I know the goal is titles, but part of me just wants a chance at one of the most exciting and popular players in basketball again, a la Russ or KD. I feel like Ivy has the highest chance of being one of those type of exciting guys, but who would you say has the second highest chance? So if you're just going purely like exciting star, like a Ja Morant level, a Russell Westbrook level back in the day, who could potentially get you there? Is there anyone else?
I don't know. I wouldn't underrate what Chet can do in the open court. I mean, the stuff that he can do in transition at his size and his skill level is just like, whoa. Like I've never seen anything like this before kind of stuff, which I think is really not only intriguing from like a strategy standpoint, but I think from a viewership standpoint is going to be really fun. Maybe Ben Mathurin is like one of the more functional athletes in this draft too. I think that he could be that. I think Shaden Sharp could be that if he becomes a real player. But yeah, there's not a ton of just like, whoa, flashy, this is crazy, guys in this draft. It's Ivy, and I think that there's a pretty big drop off from there.
Yeah, I think the only other guy I might say, and it would require a lot, but AJ Griffin, because the way people talk about him in high school, if he did ever regain any of that athleticism, he could potentially be that type of player. But there's a long road to get there.
Yeah, I have a lot less hope in that.
Okay, Andrew. Now it's just straight Twitter questions. Are you ready?
Do we need to play the Twitter questions song?
Yeah, sure. Why not? Get people in the mood.
You really do? Okay.
If you have it.
Somebody sent us a DM yesterday, said that their kids asked Alexa to play the Twitter question song.
we got to put it on Spotify.
I know, we got to. Okay, Twitter questions.
Twitter questions. You got questions and you ask them on Twitter. Now we answer them for you. This is Twitter questions. Now let's get down to it.
Twitter questions. Oh man, so I'm in the mock draft. We're at 11, and is filling his out right now for the Knicks. And Jeremy Sohan was falling. He's falling right into my arms, and he just got taken 11th. I'm so sad now.
So who's on the board? Let us know.
I'm so sad now. Okay, so AJ Griffin was taken 11th.
Okay.
Jalen Duren was taken 9th. Dyson Daniels at 8. Shaden Sharp at 7. Ben Mathurin at 6. Keegan Murray 5. Jaden Ivey 4. Blah, 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 blah.
So who are you looking at? Oh, by the way, that's another piece of my Jalen Duren prediction is that you would have to trade to 8 because I do believe that San Antonio would take him at 9.
Yeah, so I've made a quasi big board here. And all of my top guys are gone outside of Johnny Davis.
Okay.
That might be who I take here. Yeah. I mean, they're all gone. So
wow, they're all gone.
All of them.
Man, do you feel now like, because you used to say you wanted to just stay at 12, Andrew. Now that you're seeing what could happen, you kind of want to move up?
Should I take Usman and just be the... No, I can't take Usman, Jang.
Don't take Usman,
Jang. Can't do it. Should I take Jalen Williams as my wild card?
That'd be pretty spicy.
I like Jalen Williams a lot. I think he's really interesting. However, it's going to be difficult to not take the guy who was in a Taco Bell commercial.
That's true. Hey, before I get into Twitter questions, I just wanted to mention some of the other draft parties going on around the country, Andrew, is what I was trying to say.
Okay.
We, of course, are having ours at Fassler Hall tomorrow night.
Yes.
It's going to be really fun. But let's say that you're in Tulsa and you just can't drive all the way down there for one night. Well, you can go to Marshall Brewing Company. There's going to be Thunder fans there watching the game. What if you're in Dallas, Andrew? you can go watch the draft at Hero, which is right in front of the American Airlines Center. Tyler Carroll, who you may remember from crunching all the odds for the picks in the past, he's going to be there. And then also, if you happen to be in Scottsdale, Arizona, there's going to be some down to dunkers at Backyards, which 9261 East Via de Ventura in Scottsdale, Arizona. They will be there. So you have options around the country to watch with Thunder fans.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah. Okay. First question. Love this question. At JGG512. Without predicting who we will pick on Thursday, what is one statistical marker, not three-point shooting, or characteristic of the team next season that will make you feel like they've made a major jump or on the precipice of one? And so frame it this way, Andrew. Let's say like you go into a coma, or maybe something nicer. You just go on a trip. You go away on a trip for a year. You come back next May. Someone hands you a computer, open on NBA.com/stats. You can look at one stat for the Thunder. What would you look at first?
Shoot. Not 3-point shooting.
Yeah, you can't choose 3-point shooting.
I mean, I think just getting better defenders is probably the thing, like perimeter defenders.
Well, that's not a stat, Andrew.
I'm sorry. I'm misunderstanding the question then, because I'm plugged into my mock draft.
You can only pick one. Here, I'll give you mine, okay? And then you'll understand. Okay.
I heard 1/3 of what you said.
Okay. Andrew's in a coma currently. He's already preparing. Let's say I don't watch any of the season. I come back to life next May. I only look at one stat. I am going to be looking at the net rating of the two-man Shea and Giddey lineup. That's what I want to know.
Can I say win percentage?
No, that's lame. No.
That's a stat.
Wouldn't you want? I think that one's good because like that's what we talked about this last season. We want to believe in this combination, but you know, if you look at like,
I just don't care about that stuff yet. I guess
you won't care about it by the end of next season. What if by the end of next season they're still a -10 net rating when they're on the court together?
I don't care.
You won't have any questions about whether it's working or not.
No.
I
don't care.
Well, what do you care about any stats, Andrew? You're going to look at like what deflections, charges taken,
win percentage. That's all I care about.
All right. Well, John Grooms, I'm sorry that Andrew has made a mockery of your very good question.
First, I can listen to it, and then second.
All right. Next question. At OKC Thunder Baby, I keep thinking about the outcomes that I personally would be bummed confused about. For instance, trading Lou, getting Duran or Williams at 12, or what about 8, OKC Thunder Baby? What could happen on draft night that would be the hardest for you personally to become more excited than disappointed, where you'd have to really talk yourself into it?
Yeah, I think trading down for Ivy and then taking Mark Williams at 12 would be the outcome that I would just be like, okay, like this isn't it. This is not what I expected. I could talk Duran. I would be more excited about. Mark Williams is just like you're taking a traditional center and the speedy guy. I don't know. That would be the one that I would have to. We'd have to do a 2-hour podcast to talk through how it works.
Here's the thing. I think mine would be taking Jaden Ivey at 2, and then taking Usman Jang at 12.
Yeah. I would be really upset if they took him at 2, honestly.
And the reason they would take him at 2 is because all indications are that Houston is locked in on Paulo.
Yeah.
Paulo doesn't really make a ton of sense next to Sabonis.
Yeah.
So, like, do they really need to trade up the Kings? Like, are they really convinced that Houston's going to take whoever falls out of Jabari or Chet over Paulo? I'm not. I think Houston might just take Paulo, and then they could just get the other guy. So I'm less convinced on the incentive for Sacramento to trade up.
Yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't like that. Jang, you can talk yourself into it. Like
no,
really, really young, 6'10", can pass.
Mm-mm.
There's ways to talk yourself into it.
Can't do it.
He feels thundery in a lot of ways too. So like, I just prepare your hearts for that potential outcome.
I know the context. I know why this is the case. I mean, James Wiseman only played 3 games. Like Kyrie played 11 games at Duke.
Mm-hmm.
But last night on that mock draft show, when they were talking about Ousmane Dieng, and they were like, but if you look at his last 10 games,
Yeah, I didn't
like they're just giving us stats on his last 10 games. It's like, I know the reason why. Like I get, I mean, Raphael talked to us about it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, man.
He's not my favorite prospect. On my fictitious big board, which is not a real big board, I've got him at 16.
Yeah. Okay, next question. At Michael on sports. You guys talked before about 17 points per game for Dort last year, more than likely being his career high.
Mm-hmm.
Is he at his max trade value currently? If so, does that make it a smarter move to see if you can move him? I was thinking about this. What is Dort at his max trade value? Because he's not on a long-term deal yet.
Yeah.
So he's affordable for at least one more year.
Yeah, I mean, he could be. I think that he will max out as like a Jay Crowder like role player in the NBA, probably.
So if you feel higher on him than that,
mm-hmm.
I don't know. Like I was thinking, like last year probably would have been max trade value because then you're getting 2 more years of cost control. Because if you trade for him now, especially if you're giving up something like in the scenario where Portland would give up 7, you're kind of committing to that next contract.
Gotta pay him.
So I don't know if he's at his max trade value right now. Yeah. And obviously he could theoretically get better and then be on a reasonable contract next summer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it depends on what the money is. I mean, if he's locked in at like 15 per, great. Like, it's a very tradable deal. People like to have those size of contracts on their team anyways, and he's a good player. I mean, the answer could just be that the Thunder want to keep him and want him on the team long term.
Right.
You know, that might just be the answer. It's like everybody's talking about how you can package this and this and get that. The answer could be that they do that, but it could also just be that they see the value and that they'd rather use future draft capital instead of him to get to wherever they want to go in the draft.
By the way, Andrew, did you see Brandon Land is going to be in the building for the NBA draft? And he is committed to vomiting on television when we make our pick.
That's great to know the guy that could do it. Yeah, he better do it. For a big Oklahoma City Thunder emblem on your chest. And just find a way to throw up. Yeah.
I mean, that's really hard to do, I got to say.
Yeah.
I was always I've been watching a lot of Jackass lately. Just hours and hours of Jackass clips. And Dave England being able to poop on command is still like one of the most impressive things. How is that possible?
I don't know.
Okay, next question, Andrew.
Kids have some messed up bodies, though.
They do have some messed up bodies. I'm very worried about Johnny Knoxville. At Watkins B 1531, as sad as we'd be if Dort got traded, do you think it would solve some roster issues being that he's a wonky fit with SGA and Giddey, or would you just keep him and roll the dice? How are you feeling about the Dort fit question right now?
I don't think he's a wonky fit, I would say.
You don't think there's a little wonk there?
I really don't. I think that he's defensively, he takes a ton of pressure off both of them. And then offensively, as they acquire players that are much better than him, I think his offensive role is going to be simplified. Like last year, it was, oh boy, like we don't have a lot of guys that are going to get buckets on this squad. And Lou, you can hoist 8 threes a game, and that's fine. I just think that as they acquire players, like they're likely to acquire 2 lottery picks in this draft tomorrow, you're going to bring those guys in and you're going to simplify what Lou does offensively, where you kind of cut out the above the break stuff. He just takes corner threes, attacks closeouts, plays in transition. I think if he does that, I don't think he's a wonky fit. I think it's actually a pretty nice fit with them. Just depending on what you do. He could also be a guy that comes in off the bench and scores a little bit and plays defense and maybe closes some lineups where you go a little bit smaller. I don't think he's that wonky of a fit, honestly.
Yeah, I think it's hard to judge his fit. Like we really haven't seen him in his ideal role since his rookie season, probably.
Yeah.
So
I think that's right.
Like if he comes in this season playing alongside a number 2 pick and number 12 pick, and he's still taking 7 threes per game and most of them are above the break, then I think we could have that conversation more seriously.
Yeah, I think Mark needs to have a conversation with him, not us have a conversation.
Yeah, but I think right now, even though I've been a little lower on Dort compared to some of the Thunder fan base, I still like the idea of that ideal role for Dort. I just want to see it. It was the same thing with Bays. Like we just wanted to see it, and we eventually did see it, and then all of a sudden it was like, oh, I kind of understand how Bays could work long term. Okay, at snake shooting. Careful, Andrew. What is the most realistic trade in which we move up without giving up Dort? I think it would be that like moving up to 8 trade.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's like Mitchich and a future pick in addition to the 12, or I just think you could get that deal done without Dort.
Probably so. Yeah.
Whatever it is.
Yeah, and I mean, it might be the preference to do that as well. Just depend, and it will just totally depend on what they want. What Lou's representatives want for him in the next contract. If they're like, hey, we need 20 million plus. He scored 17 points per game. He's a good defender. That's what we need. Then it's like, okay, Lou, it's been real, man. Then you include him in the deal. But if it's hey, Lou has been a Thunder fan his whole life. He wants to play with Shea. He wants to stay with the organization that bet on him. Let's figure out a number that makes sense for everybody. And it's like, yeah, great. Keep him around. And we can trade future draft capital. We've got 18 picks in the next 5 years. We can't use them all anyways. And if we do want to move up in the draft, we'll use picks. That's how we'll do it. So to me, that makes the most sense. I mean, a lot of people talk about like Kenrich Williams involved in these deals and Dort involved in these deals, and maybe they involve both of them. I don't think that's out of the question. But to me, it makes more sense to try to use future draft capital as a part of that than not. Now that they've got that Denver pick now that's a blue chipper like way in the future too. I think you can feel more comfortable with trading just whatever.
Mm-hmm. Next question. At Sean Cargill. I like this question. Say the Thunder don't trade up and they're picking at 12. Are there any young players in the league that you would like to trade for instead of picking at 12? Trying to think of something that hasn't been discussed yet. Which we have not discussed that. The idea that you would potentially trade your first round pick to just get like a guy on a rookie scale deal. I think what's tough about that is like take Trey Mann, for example.
Mm-hmm.
If Trey Mann was on another team and we hadn't watched him all season and, we're just looking at the stats, like it would feel like a lot to give up to trade 12 for that guy. And on the flip side, like teams who have guys on rookie scale deals, usually the GMs who made those picks are still in position. Like they made those guys because they fell in love with them. And so I think it's very hard to trade those guys when they're only a year or two into the league. Like a deal back in the day, like Eric Maynor, like those deals just don't happen a lot.
And he was a late first round pick too.
He was a late, yeah.
Yeah, it's not like he was a lottery pick. And which you would want to trade 12 for a guy that was taking the lottery.
You would.
What about Denny Avdia? You down with Denny?
I mean, depending who was on the board, I maybe that's around fair value, but I wouldn't be. I wouldn't be dancing, Andrew.
Yeah, it would be like, oh, okay, you did that.
Yeah. He's definitely a guy where you have to like really dive in to like make the case.
Yeah,
to like get really excited.
Dive into the synergy tape. What about his teammate Rui Hachimura?
No, I'm not a huge Rui fan.
Okay, it's tough because like the guys that you would really want. What about DeAndre Hunter?
Yeah, and see, like that's the kind of deal where like I just don't think Atlanta would do that.
Beverly Newt. And
also no, because the other problem, especially with someone like DeAndre Hunter, like you're gonna have to pay them like almost immediately.
You got to pay the boy.
So it has to be a first year like a rookie or like maybe a sophomore, and those guys just like don't get traded.
Trey Murphy.
Yeah, but like why would New Orleans do that?
I don't know.
But yeah, like Trey Murphy would be one where I feel like, okay, I feel good about that. Big shooter.
Yep.
Like that. But I don't think
James
Book, do that
James Book
for the 12th pick. Because it's like we already did well. We already feel like we did well in last year's draft, and now we're going to reset it.
Yeah, I don't like that either. James Booknight for 12. You like that?
Andrew. Oh, I'm back.
You're back. James Booknight for 12. You like that?
Oh, no.
All right.
All right.
It's a tough question to come up with an answer to, that's especially with guys on rookie scale.
All right. I think I know the answer to this, Andrew, but I just want to ask you. At Fluky says, after Shea and Giddey, which player would you least want to be included in a trade to get either 4 or 7-8? And is the answer obvious to you?
It's not obvious.
Because obviously anyone's immediately going to say Dort, but then you have to factor in the contract.
Yeah, I mean, it's not.
It gets a little more dicey.
We'll ask for Dort to be the guy. I mean, I guess it would be Trey Mann, but at the same time, it's just like, if that's what you have to do to get the guy that they believe is at a different level than all these guys, then you do it.
Yeah.
So I don't know that there's like I can't believe that they did that. Dort is probably the guy, but otherwise it's like the cost of doing business. If they want a player, and like if they're just like, we have to have Trey Mann back, that would be the one where it's like, oh man, okay, fine. That would probably be the one. Anybody else, it's like, okay, whatever. You don't get value for Poku. If they traded Baisley, fine. And then it's like, who else really? Like Jeremiah? Like, I don't know. Does Jeremiah Robinson Earl have trade value?
Yeah.
Probably not.
No. Okay. At Unhandy Train, over under 2.5 Hall of Famers from this class. I'm going under, and I feel pretty good. I was looking back. 1970 was the draft with the most Hall of Famers in one draft class, and it was 5.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the most there's ever been in a single draft class. Even in like good drafts, it's like 3. Yeah. So I feel pretty confident saying under 2.5.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think if you put it at 1.5, that's where you could be like,
That's a more difficult line. But yeah, I'd say under. I think there could be 2. Yeah.
At Diesel Ray 23, knowing what we know now about Giddey, where would you rank him if he was in this draft? Wondering if an average draft, we would consider him a top 3 to 4 talent. I thought about this and I said 5.
Yeah, you could put him in that 5th spot. Yeah, I think that's fair. 5 or 6 is fair.
Yeah. It's kind of a eye of the beholder thing, because I'm sure there's some teams who, even seeing Giddey, still wouldn't rank him like above, a Jaden Ivey or some of these other guys.
Yeah, if you're Detroit, is that really who you want to pair?
Right, yeah.
Trade? Like, not really. I can see the Pacers wanting to do it. And then if you're 7 at the Blazers, if he falls there, it's like, to the Blazers,
actually,
you want him? Like, I don't know.
Giddey Cade would be kind of fun. I mean,
it might be, but Cade wants the ball. Like, you want Cade to have the ball. And then
he doesn't have to. Like, he did that at OSU, and that isn't that why one of the reasons people like the Jaden Ivey fit, because it's like I don't think Cade is going to be this like Helios.
Don't like that fit, by the way.
I don't know why. Like, do they really want Cade to play like Luka, to be like heliocentric completely and just surround him with shooters?
Yes.
I don't feel like that's maximizing what Cade does.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that you put a guy that, I think that you can have a fine secondary ball handler, but Cade's like the guy. He's the guy. I don't know why you'd want to put another guy that needs a lot of possessions to be maximized next to him. I don't think that makes sense. They want Ben Mathurin or Keegan Murray. That's what Pistons fans want.
At Bandito, here's a question you might be able to answer, Andrew, because you haven't been able to answer any of the other ones. At Bandito 1986, when will we hear from Presti after the draft?
Tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night. So it'll be tomorrow night. He will do a Zoom interview, or will it be in person? It's
in person. Yeah, I will. Depending on how things go tomorrow night, I'll probably head over to the practice facility afterwards and talk to Samuel with the other 5 of us.
At Josh Lath Comedy, any players you have a draft crush on at 34? This is more for you. I talked a little bit about it in the spaces. We've done a good job finding second rounders who can contribute. Is there anyone you've got your eye on at 34 that you would just love it?
I'm a big Christian Brown guy. I'm a big
Uh-huh.
Gabriel Procida guy.
Uh-huh.
Those are probably my two favorites in that
Okay.
range. Big wings, can shoot it. Yeah, multi-skilled, have some toughness to them too. Yeah, those are definitely the two guys that I like the most in that range. I like Wendell Moore as well, but he's a little shorter. I don't think he's quite 6'6", whereas like the other guys are bigger than that. So that's why I those two.
I don't know if you're following the Down to Dunk group chat, but McKelly's long text string on Procida.
Oh, he did.
He should,
Okay.
I don't know if I can share it, so I'm not going to share it. But
Okay.
we'll just say McKelly is into the idea.
Okay.
Yeah. At Cameron Whitham, will Al Babycakes be watching with his mother-in-law again? We need those vibes from Lotto Night.
Oh yeah.
And Bangela wants to know, what is Al Babycakes doing the night of the draft? I will be at home by myself, watching it by myself. Kind of sad, but I have a newborn, and so I can't really just leave. I'm back to work already, so I can't like go to work and then leave at night.
Yeah.
But that's fine, because the draft, like I am as nervous for tomorrow night as I would be for like a game 5 in the playoffs.
Wow.
Like I'm terrified. And those types of things, I kind of like to watch them alone, so that I can just like block everything out and just focus on what's happening.
But you'd be at Vassar Hall if you could.
I would, but I wouldn't be comfortable. I'd be uncomfortable the entire time. I'd be miserable. You know what I'd do? I'd overcompensate by drinking too much. I'd had like 2 DOS boots, Andrew, before the draft even started.
That might be what you need, though.
No, that'd be bad. Okay, final question. At Alex_Bowlerjack, describe your ideal draft outfit if you were getting drafted on Thursday. Have you ever thought about this? Because it's always a big deal what guys are wearing. Some famous ones, somebody posted. I think Shea Media posted today what Shea was wearing back in the day. He looked great.
Yeah,
I always remember Bowl's spider jacket. Remember that?
It's weird.
And then I feel like Wiggins had a really interesting jacket on too back in his day.
Mm-hmm.
There's been some great ones. Any ideas for what you'd want to wear?
I mean, I'm super boring when it comes to style, so I would probably keep it pretty simple. Maybe have something on the inside of my suit jacket. I don't know.
That'd be cool.
I don't know. I have no good answers for this. I don't have a good answer for this. Like a true answer for this. I mean,
what if you had like a really cool like multi-box cereal design on the inside? You open it up and it's just like a collage of cereals.
What if I just wore like the suit that Kirk Heinrich wore on draft night? Just giant.
What did he wear? So I was thinking about that. I was thinking, especially in the last couple of years, the trend has been to go skinnier with the fit. What if you start a new trend, go the opposite way, even go further than what it was in like the early 2000s? Just wear like the baggy. You can't even see your shoes because your pants are draped over top of them. You can't see your hands. Like kind of like a Kyle Kuzma thing.
You make Adam Silver reach inside your sleeve.
Yeah,
I put my sleeve up like this and make Adam reach up into it to shake my hand.
Yeah, just complete like looking like Nathan Fielder when he wears that big suit. And Nathan for You. I think that'd be a fun way to go with it. Everyone would make fun of you, but it'd be memorable.
You would be the story of the night if you decided to.
And it'd be very funny if you were invited to the green room and you were the guy who fell to like the second round. And so they just keep cutting to you as it's like pick 50 and you're just in this giant suit, just sweating. I would enjoy that.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, you would be talked about for years to come if that's what happened to you. Yeah. Jay's in the chat. He says, wear Jinkos.
Somebody said that Andrew strikes me as a suit with shorts guy. Have you ever done that, Andrew?
No.
Suit with shorts?
I do wear a lot of shorts.
I feel like that's an L-Man thing. I feel like L-Man would do that.
I think L-Man would definitely try it. Do you have to wear short sleeves with the short shorts? I guess you have to.
No, you can wear a jacket, like a regular jacket.
Do you
shorts? And then you push it, and then you push up the sleeves like Miami Vice style.
Yeah, that's bad. That's a bad look.
I think L-Man might be able to pull it off. He pulled off cornrows.
He
He
pulled
didn't.
pulled them. Yeah, that was a classic L-Man move, getting corner.
I think we've posted that picture on Twitter before. I know we have.
Yeah, it's really good. He's got gold hair, gold braces, braided. Amazing. So good. Yeah. Okay. Final predictions, Al.
I said what I said. I'm going Chet and Jalen Duren. That is my final prediction.
Okay. I wouldn't be my choice, but I wouldn't mind it either, because I do think Duren's does have a high ceiling because of just the physical nature. That, I mean, he's a freak athlete, and he's man-sized at 18. So I like that. I'll say, gosh, the 12th pick, I've just had a hard time just getting a handle on it this whole time, to be honest. But I'll say Chet and Sohan.
Okay. So basically, we're both picking a front court of the future.
Yeah, front court of the future. I think that you can get that in this draft, which is pretty cool. And then at 34, Gabriel Pochita goes to OKC.
Yeah, I would go with that as well, based on what McKelly said, which I can't repeat. I probably can repeat it, but I'm making it sound like it's very exciting information.
Yeah. Yeah. Let us know what you guys want in the chat or on Twitter. It's going to be a really exciting night. So I'm releasing a podcast today that I recorded with Kelly Eco and James Anderson. Not James Anderson. James Anderson's in the chat here. James Edwards. James, it would have been a surprise for you to be on a podcast that you didn't know you were on. James Edwards III, who covers the Pistons, and Kelly, who covers the Rockets. And so we just talked about the top 5. That'll be on the Athletic NBA show feed sometime today. We will have a Slam and Jam recapping the draft. We'll record that Friday and release it Saturday. We are trying to finalize what we're going to do for that, but it should be a really fun recap of the draft. So something to look out for as well. We're doing this beat writer mock draft that I'm doing right now. You can look for that on The Athletic. So if you want to have all these podcasts ad free, you can subscribe at theathletic.com/down2dunk and get it for $1 a month for 6 months. Get the podcast completely ad free, and you can also read everything that's on there, including this mock draft that we're releasing, and then also Sam Vecini's book, essentially, that he put online. This is an ebook, essentially, that he's released on The Athletic. It's tremendous. It has any of the content that you'd want on all the prospects. It's there. So I think it's 93,000 words, which is just absolutely insane. So join us at Fassler Hall tomorrow night from 6 to 10. It's going to be an absolute blast. You want to be somewhere that is going to be joyful, that you will remember this draft. Last year was incredible, and we only had the 6th pick. And this year we have 2 and 12 with the potential to move up. Lots of chatter about moving up. You're going to want to be there with Thunder fans. So be sure to be there. Fassler Hall, 6 to 10 tomorrow night. Hope you guys have a great day. And we will talk to you guys again on Friday.